Hi guys, ready to dive into the real world tools SOC analysts use every day for the day-to-day activities? Well, today we're going to be installing our Linux server on the cloud. And in that server, we'll be installing our Elasticsearch, which is going to be used for our ELK stack. This is a key component in monitoring and defending against cyber threats. Whether you are prepping for a career in cybersecurity or you're looking to boost up your skill, this hands-on lab will give you the practical experience you need to stay ahead. You remember when we talked about the Elasticsearch server in our previous video when we designed the logical diagram? And then we went on to design an IP range. This is where we dive into the real world practice of that. We're going to do the configuration, real life and practical. And to be able to do that, you need to have some sort of cloud account. And for our logical design, we decided to go with Volta. You could use AWS again. You could also use Microsoft Azure, whatever suits you. But in this case, we're going to be sticking to Volta. Volta can give you up to 300 credits to test the platform. And the link will be in the description box for you to use. In alternative for that would be to use the $200, which is also free for you to use as well. But mind you, this is for a new account. Without wasting too much time, let's get started. I'm going to head on to Volta and log into my already existing account. Right, so this is my account already there, and I'm going to start by heading on to products and then network and VPC 2.0. On that VPC, like we said when we were doing our logical diagram, on that VPC we will deploy our servers. Now what we need to do is to select a location where we're going to be running our VPC from, and in my case I'm picking London. Remember that you have to select the same location for your VPC and your server as well. Otherwise, there might be a clash if you're using different locations. So I'll be doing I'll configure my IP range myself. Remember what we did when we were doing the logical diagram? We set up an IP range and we put a CIDR notation, which is our prefix, and we also created that for that logical diagram. So if I remember, it was 172.10.0.0 and the prefix is 24. I'll describe the network. I'll say SOC lab, right, and add network. Now that the network is created, the next thing we need to do is to head on to the server and deploy a new server. Right, so deploy a new server, and I'll leave the type of server as the same as default there. And this is where you have to select the location. That location, like I said, has to be the same with that for your VPC. So I'll click that, leave that as London, and I'll choose my operating system image. In this case, it's going to be a Linux Ubuntu, and I'm selecting 22.04. The plan is going to be 80 gigabyte, 4 virtual CPUs, and 16 gigabyte of RAM. This should be good enough, and it's going to be costing $120 per month. If you get the $300 credit or $200 credit, this should be enough for a month for you to be able to complete this lab setup. And make sure you remove the auto backups, because that's just going to cost too much. We don't need that. And the next thing is to remove IPv6, because we don't actually need IPv6 service. We need IPv4. That's what we're using actually. So, but remember to click on Virtual Private Cloud 2.0, because that's what we're working with right now, and it's free actually. You can see it right here. So you click on that, and the next thing is to make sure that you are under the same virtual private cloud, which is the SOC lab 172.10.0.3. So .3 has been assigned to us because from the IP range we've configured initially, it has given us from that pool .3. So it's on its default right there, and you don't have to bother about the SSH key right now. And the server host name is what we can bother about, and I will call this SOC lab -elk. So this is like the ELK server, you know, the Linux server, and then we click on deploy. So while this is installing and running, just grab a cup of coffee, relax, and wait. Now that that's finished installing, it's not running right here. So we can simply just click that and open up the server, It says the server is currently being installed. Most server actions will be unavailable until this has been completed. So right now that it's completed, we can now enter on to the view console and see what we have there. So it's currently connected to the server. This is the Linux server being spawned on the cloud. So now that that's done, you see it's prompting for login. But I wouldn't want to sign in here because this interface looks really rough and not clear. I'm going to open up, I'll close this and open up my PowerShell that has been installed on my Mac machine. Next thing I need to do is to try to log in. And to log in, I need the username and the password of our server. The username is root and the password is right here. So I'll get onto my server and I'll type SSH root at, sorry, I'll use, it's case sensitive, so it has to be little letter, small letters, at this IP address because I'm trying to connect to this server. So that's the IP address, and I'll put not this instance, that IP address, and I'll paste it here and hit enter. So it's asking me to authenticate the fingerprint, like just to agree and say yes. I'll type yes and hit enter. It's now asking me for the password. Head on back here for this username. This is the corresponding password. I just need to copy this password and put it back, paste it and hit enter. You're not going to see anything while you paste it because for security purposes, but right now we are already installed. We're already on that server and you can now start getting your Elasticsearch downloaded onto the server and installing it from there. So I'm going to clear this screen. The next thing I need to do right now, is to update my Linux repository, and I'm going to type this code to update that. .get.update and apt-get upgrade. I'll do it again because I need to put the notation -y. So I'll do that again and I'll add -y notation onto it. Right, so that's complete. The next thing we need to do right now is to first of all clear the screen again, and the next thing we can do right now is to go on to search for the Elasticsearch and copy the download link and download the Elasticsearch onto this Elk server. So I'll head on back to my browser and I'll go back to search for Elasticsearch download, and I'll be using the Debian 8664 architecture. Instead of clicking this link, I'm going to right click and copy the link, right? And I'll head back onto here and install it. To download it. So what I'm going to do is to type on wget and paste the link and hit enter. So that's going to help me download what I need, which is my Elasticsearch in this case. And when that's done, I'm going to clear the screen and see that the Elasticsearch has been installed into the folder that I wanted to be installed into. Now that the Elasticsearch has been downloaded, I just want to confirm that the file has actually been downloaded onto this directory. And to do that, I'll just type on ls, and this is the Elasticsearch. And currently it's the version 8.15.2, and this version could be an improved or an increased version by the time you're trying to download, based on the time you're watching this video. However, the next thing we can do is to install this, and to do that, we're going to extract the package of the Elasticsearch, Elastic, and if I hit the tab, it's going to complete for me, and then hit enter. Right now it's going to be installing, and while that's installing, going to give us a security file, which is like a security configuration file. With that file, we'll be able to do some modification of the settings and allow our remote connections from our SOC Analyst computer. Now, at this point, mind you, while the installation is going on, it gives this screen and you're getting the security auto configuration file. So on this information, it has the super user password, which is this one, the built-in Elastic super user password, and it's going to be unique for everybody. And then there will be a reset code. Just in case you forget your password, you could actually come here to reset your password. And at the same time, it is necessary that you keep this page because you need to have access to this password, for the course of this lab. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this and copy it, and then head on to a text editor and save it right there. And the next step would be to get into the Elasticsearch configuration file. And to get into the Elasticsearch configuration file, I need to navigate to a particular directory, and that directory is the etc directory that contains the Elasticsearch configuration file. Right, so I think I've put something wrong there. Right, cd Elasticsearch, so I missed the H. I put H and then hit enter. I'm right now in that folder, so I'll see what's on that folder by typing my ls, and in that folder you can see that directory. You can see that we have elasticsearch.yaml. This is the file we're looking for. In this file, it contains the configuration settings for the Elasticsearch. In that setting, we'll be able to do some configurations to allow our remote SOC Analyst computer to have access to this service, right? So to be able to do that, I can nano into it, elasticsearch.yaml, and this is the document. I've opened the document right now, and in that document we will have something like the network side. You can see the cluster side, the node side, the path side, but what we are really interested in is the network side of things, right? So here, by default, Elasticsearch configures the local host as the only accessible IP address for this service, but I'm going to change it so we can actually connect from another host as well. And to be able to do that, I need to take this comment out like this. I need to remove that comment and change the IP address to our public IP address for our server, right? And then I also need to remove this comment for the port as well. But for now, I'm going to leave that as it is, and I'll save and press no and exit for now, right now. So what I'm going to do next is to get my IP address, the public IP address, copy that, and then put it on the Elasticsearch config file, which is the config setting, the YAML file. So to do that, first of all, I need to get the IP address, and that IP address, I can get that by typing this code. Now, the IP address here, the first one is the loopback IP address, but the next one here is the public IP address, because the last one, it's just showing us the IP address that we configured when we were configuring the VPC. So this one is our public IP address. So we copy this IP address, then head back to the configuration file and paste it there. So to get onto that configuration file, first of all, let me clear the screen so we can see. So I'll nano into Elasticsearch YAML. Right, so we're now in the file. We need to go back to the network path again, and here we are. So on that network side, all I need to do is to remove the comment and change the IP address to our own IP address, right? And I paste our own IP address there, and then the port, the same port, but I'll have to remove the comment and then save it. This time I'll press yes. So when that's done, I'll hit enter to be sure that this configuration has been saved. I'll nano into it again, Elasticsearch.yaml, open the YAML file and head down to the network side. Right, you can see that it's saved. We're just trying to make sure of that. Now you can exit. So now that we've installed our Elasticsearch on the server and we have actually done the configuration settings to allow connections from remote side and not just this computer, but then we need to restrict this access because we don't want anybody all over the internet to just have access to this IP address and keep connecting. We could have different kind of attacks that we can't control at the moment. However, we need to set up some firewall rules to be able to control this traffic and limit or restrict to only our SOC analyst laptop, which is us in this case. So what I'm going to do to have that done, to head back to our our Voucher, and here I'll go to settings and then firewall. I will click on manage, and then under manage I will add the firewall group, and on that firewall group I'll just say SOC lab rule set new, right? And then add this group. So once this group is added, I'll need to set the rules for it. We want it to just be for my IP. If it's pointing at anywhere, it means any computer and in any location with any IP address would have access to our server, our Elasticsearch, and that's not what we want. That's a very poor security setting. But in this case, we'll be limiting that to just my IP address, and this IP address is just the IP address that I have here. And then you click on add. That IP address has been saved. The next thing you need to do right now is to head back to your server again, back here, and back to settings, firewall, select the firewall, which is the new one here, and then update the rule, update the group here. That's updated, so it takes 120 seconds for these changes to apply. So what it means that we've actually tightened this configure these settings, so not everybody can just head on here to use our servers anymore. So what we need to do next is to now actually run the service for our server. So to do that, I will come back to my PowerShell, open up my PowerShell, and go clear my screen. Sorry, I'll clear my screen and put the code systemctl daemon reload, and the next one will be systemctl enable Elasticsearch.service. This enables the service. And then the next thing will be systemctl start Elasticsearch.service. So what you need to do next is to go systemctl status Elasticsearch.service, then hit enter. Good, we're in and we're live and active. So if you've done this, it means that your Elasticsearch now up and running in your server, which you've spun up on the cloud. Firstly, you've been able to configure the virtual private cloud, which is the VPC, set up the location, and have an IP address configured as well. On that, you've also been able to launch like a Linux server, in this case with a 16 gig of memory. And the last thing you've done is to install, configure, and set your Elasticsearch. And you've also configured the settings for your firewall rule to make sure that only your SOC analysts have access to these services. Next, we are going to be installing the Kibana. So stay tuned for the next video.